This is Grant Wood. My first ever video on this channel was on Grant Wood. I originally wanted it to be on American Gothic, but because I wasn't comfortable with my abilities of making a proper video essay, I saved it for later. I made a video on Daughters of Revolution. Later, I made a video on Parson Weem's Fable, again by Grant Wood. I didn't think my video essayist skills were quite refined enough for a video on American Gothic. But they are now, I hope. It's about time I tackled this painting, and I'll answer this question. Why is it so beloved, popular, and iconic? The answer to the question is, at least I believe, nationalism. I will spare you the details of Grant Wood's life and the story behind the making of this painting. There are plenty of videos out there that cover that without actually explaining the painting. First, let's look at this painting. A father stands, pitchfork in his hands, next to his daughter. Yes, she's his daughter. He's coldly looking at us. Behind them is their house with an oddly arch-shaped window in the back. From this, we can make many assumptions, mainly that this man is a farmer and he's posing in front of his country house. That's it. It's an extremely simple composition that hardly explains why this painting is so iconic. To try to understand, I think we first need to forget any notion about this painting, any parody that we've seen on it online and in media. We need to wipe the slate clean. Obviously, that's impossible. Our relationship and overexposure to this painting has completely desensitized us to it. However, we can try to imagine this being our first time seeing it. There's something creepy about it, isn't there? There's something about the whole thing looking like it's staged that's off-putting. There's the awkward daughter who avoids eye contact behind her very disturbing father. He's the reason, at least to me, why this painting is so eerie. I don't think it's because of his face. Yes, he looks like a very serious and cold man, but not necessarily a creepy one. However, I do believe there's a belligerence in the way he's presenting himself. He's standing straight, pitchfork firmly in hand, staring down at us. I see this man as someone who's protecting his property and who perhaps sees us, the viewer, as a threat. His property isn't only the house we see behind him, but his daughter. And as it's been said before, it's easy to create stories with the idea that this man isn't only protecting his property, but perhaps hiding something. There are some dark secrets lurking behind this arched window. The daughter has seen things, and all of it is kept a mystery by a rigid old man. The creepiness of this painting lies in its mystery, belligerently guarded by a man and his pitchfork. But this, to me, still isn't enough to explain the popularity of the painting. According to art historian Horst Waldemar Jansen, Wood went to Europe to train as an artist, as many of them would, but he was dissatisfied until he saw the works of the old masters of Flanders and Germany, and he realized that these artists were great because they drew inspiration from their immediate environment. And out of this experience, he formed the style that made him famous overnight when he painted American Gothic. To Jansen, Wood became famous overnight because he, like the old masters of Flanders and Germany, drew inspiration from his immediate environment. Perhaps because of that, he was able to reach an American sensibility. When speaking of American Gothic, Wood said, "Our cardboard frame houses on Iowa farms are especially suggestive of Middle West civilization." This Iowan cardboard frame house was particularly interesting to Wood because of its Gothic-style window, which is echoed in the title of the painting, and which stands as a contradiction. As for the people, I simply invented some American Gothic people to stand in front of a house of this type. Wood definitely took inspiration from his immediate environment, yet we don't know if he did so seriously as an homage or ironically as a caricature. Some locals were offended and perceived it as an attack. Some urbanites saw it as a funny caricature of rural people. But as art history professor R. Tripp Evans states in his biography on Grant Wood, which is where I took most of my quotes by the way, in Wood's own day, the notion that American Gothic represented a satire of Midwestern types was less common than the competing claim that it embodied a sincere and patriotic reflection of America. Homage or parody, there's nonetheless a nationalist appreciation of the work that sprang from the reaction. The Art Institute would say of Wood that he's an American with an original viewpoint, without a vestige of foreign influence. American Gothic could have been painted in no other country. Art critic C.J. Bulliett would explain that American Gothic has masterful technique, and yet it remains American. He wrote American in all caps there. You could read in The New Yorker, as a symbol, Wood stands for the corn-fed Middle West against the anemic East, starving aesthetically upon warmed-over entrees dished up by Spanish chefs in Paris kitchens. He stands for an independent American art against the colonialism and cosmopolitanism of New York. The last sentence from this New Yorker quote really summarizes the idea that it's because of nationalism that American Gothic might have taken off and so quickly acquired the status of icon. America was becoming polarized, as it always has been, between the rural folks and the urbanites. Urban America was getting increasingly multicultural and cosmopolitan. The art coming from these centers, notably New York, had strong European influences, and in the 1930s, the art that came from Europe was often modern. Because of that, America struggled to find its own artistic identity. It would come later after World War II when America, as it gained power on the international stage, also gained cultural power through the domination of abstract expressionism, the first influential American art movement, filled with artists who weren't even born in America. So we're in a context of artistic exploration in the Western world where artists created new modes of expression, new trends, and new art movements. However, America was lagging behind, and as seen, an urban art corrupted by the influences of European modern art cannot be true American art. That could only come from an uncorrupted or pure American artist from the cornfields of Iowa. A myth was built. Grant Wood was this prophesized purely American painter. His style came from no influence other than his own hard work, creativity, and the good old American traditions and values he grew up with and embodied. American Gothic was the materialization of the will for America to create a modern cultural identity of its own, independent of outside influences. But that's not really possible. Creating pure art uncorrupted by influences from outside your borders is impossible. Even modern art in Europe came from outside influences, notably from Japan. I made a video about that. As stated earlier, Grant Wood studied in Europe, learned from the many modern movements he encountered, and was heavily influenced not only by them, but also by the old masters of Flanders and Germany. American Gothic is the embodiment of American myth-building, and nothing makes it more clear than the title itself. There's the affirmation, or the reassurance, that this is an American artwork. The Gothic adds an element of mystery, of drama. This painting became popular, at least I believe, because it gave the first modern American painting that, at least in its myth, was untouched by foreign influence. America was fragile. It feared losing its authenticity, its purity, if it wasn't 100% American. In comes a rural white American artist making a modern painting, a purely American painting. The myth of the independent, self-made, all-American modern painting was created. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you Axel, Mike Wex, Roman Brandel, Russell Chinchilla, and all my other patrons for supporting the channel. If you also want to help out, leave a like, subscribe, and check out patreon.com/thecanvas. Thank you.